So in our last video, we talked about the value of being a better listener and asking more questions, in particular at the beginning of an exam, giving the patient time to fully explain their concerns, their needs, what brought them in, not interrupting the patient. We talked about how common that is with physicians. There's something else that happens when we ask questions that I want to talk about in this video, and that's what happens when you ask a question and the other person doesn't have an answer or doesn't know the answer. So typically what happens is they become curious. So it creates what's called a knowledge gap, or what I like to call a curiosity gap, when you ask someone a question and they don't have the answer. And we really don't like not knowing things. So you're going to want the other person to fill in that knowledge gap. And this actually has a neuroscience background to it. So when we're curious, it actually causes a certain part of our brain to light up, and it's the midbrain, which is responsible for anticipation of reward. In this case, the reward is the information that we're seeking. So when we create some curiosity, when you ask a question and create some curiosity in the other person, they're actually going to want that information from you. So let me give you a few examples here. Maybe one would be with dry eye and saying, I understand you have some issues with dry eye. What medications have you taken in the past for dry eye? Wait, there's medications for dry eye? I thought you just went to the pharmacy and got the drops that you put in your eye. So no, I didn't know there was medications for dry. Tell me more about that. So now the patient wants to hear the information from you. Let's take a situation like myopia management. Maybe you're talking with a parent and say, are you aware of alternative options out there to glasses or contact lenses that have actually been shown to slow down the progression of nearsightedness that your son continues to experience? There's not a parent in the world that's not going to want to hear what you have to say next. This is different than when we just feed people information, where people can be sometimes a little bit skeptical or judgmental of the information, right? Well, how much is this going to cost? How come I never heard of this before? How come my last doctor never mentioned this? So when we ask questions of people and open up those curiosity gaps, we're actually connecting with a different part of their brain that's going to make them more receptive to what we have to say. And there's another benefit to this as well. When we create curiosity, is that people are more likely to remember the information long after they've left if we've made them curious before we tell them, because making someone curious also causes the activity in a part of the brain called the hippocampus to go up, which is responsible for learning and memory. So when you make someone curious before you give them information, they're much more likely to remember that information later. In the next video, we're going to talk about why that's really important for improving outcomes, short-term and long-term outcomes, when you can create stickier messages. And that's going to be what we talk about in the next video, how to create sticky messages that patients remember.